Hidden deep in the shadows of the Cold War, the CIA started this top-secret program to do something, well, something that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, to get complete control over the human mind. Today, we're talking about the deeply disturbing story of Project MKUltra.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The year is 1953. The Cold War is absolutely raging, and there's this thick cloud of paranoia hanging over everything. Everybody is watching their back. And right in the middle of all that tension, you start to hear these whispers, these rumors spreading through intelligence circles about a brand new kind of weapon, something their enemies were supposedly developing. But here's the thing, this wasn't a bomb, it wasn't a missile. This was something totally different. Yeah, it was something way more terrifying. The idea was a weapon that could literally turn a person against their own will, against their own country, even against their own reality.
So the CIA, terrified of being beaten to the punch, decided they had to get their hands on this power first. They kickstarted a program so secret, so deep undercover, that they would eventually try to wipe every trace of it from history. And its codename, Project MKUltra.
So you have to ask, right? What on earth would push a government to chase an idea this frightening? Well, the answer really boils down to the overwhelming fear that defined the Cold War.
And that fear, it all centered on one terrifying word: brainwashing. American officials were genuinely convinced that their enemies were figuring out how to completely erase a person's identity and just install a new one, to basically create a human puppet. And look, this wasn't just some abstract fear. During the Korean War, American prisoners of war were being put on camera, making these really bizarre forced confessions. For the officials watching back home, it looked like their worst nightmare was coming true. It looked like brainwashing was real.
And that just kicked off this desperate, frantic race. In the CIA's mind, they had no other choice. They had to master these techniques before the other side did. And they were willing to do it no matter the cost.
This sense of desperation, this by any means necessary attitude, it led to some of the most disturbing and unethical experiments ever carried out by the US government.
The scientists working on MKUltra, they just cast this incredibly wide net. They tried everything. We're talking hypnosis, extreme sensory deprivation, really twisted psychological manipulation, anything and everything they could think of to try and crack the code of the human mind.
But pretty quickly, one substance rose to the top. One incredibly powerful psychedelic drug became the absolute centerpiece of the whole operation: LSD. The CIA saw this chilling, two-sided potential in LSD. On one hand, could it be a kind of ultimate truth serum? A key to unlock a person's deepest secrets? But on the other hand, could it be a weapon? Something you could use to just shatter someone's sanity? To completely neutralize them as a threat? They were absolutely determined to find out.
But this obsessive quest for knowledge, it came at an unbelievable human cost. Because the people they tested these dangerous ideas on, well, they never had a say in the matter.
These test subjects weren't willing volunteers. Not at all. They were prisoners. They were patients in mental hospitals. And in some of the most shocking cases, they were just ordinary people walking down the street who were secretly drugged, completely oblivious to the fact that they were now part of a government mind control experiment.
As you can imagine, the results were just devastating. People suffered terrifying hallucinations, permanent psychological trauma. The program is even linked to at least one confirmed death: a government scientist named Frank Olson, who was secretly given LSD by his own colleagues and days later plunged to his death from a hotel window.
Now, the program had tons of these smaller sub-projects, but there's one that just stands out for how bizarre it was. It was called Operation Midnight Climax.
Seriously, the whole setup sounds like it was ripped from a weird spy movie. The CIA set up these secret apartments, they hired sex workers to bring men back, and then, you guessed it, the men were drugged with LSD without their knowledge. Meanwhile, CIA agents would sit behind two-way mirrors just watching, taking notes on how the drug completely altered their behavior.
For 20 years, this all happened in total secrecy. But secrets this big, this dark, they don't stay buried forever. And when the truth finally started to leak out, it sparked an immediate and desperate cover-up.
So think about this. The program runs for 2 full decades without anyone knowing. But then, in the early 70s, Congress starts sniffing around, investigating abuses in the intelligence community. And just as they start getting close, the director of the CIA makes a call: destroy almost all of the records related to MKUltra.
That timing is pretty suspicious, right? But the cover-up wasn't perfect. Because of some kind of filing mistake, one box of documents survived. It was about 20,000 pages. And those pages were the proof. They confirmed the program was real and gave us a horrifying glimpse into its massive scale.
But because the rest of the files were shredded and burned, we're left with this huge black hole in history. We'll probably never know the true scope of it all. How many people were drugged, how many lives were ruined, or just how twisted the experiments really got.
But what we do know, what those surviving documents prove beyond any doubt, is this. For 20 years, in the name of national security, the United States government secretly performed mind control experiments on its own citizens without their consent.
And that just leaves us with one final, really chilling question. We know what was in the files that survived by accident. So you have to wonder, what secrets were in the thousands and thousands of files that were destroyed on purpose?